Hello, Daz Studio enthusiasts. This is Not From This World, and I want to welcome you back to my Daz Studio tutorial series. Now, this week I want to continue talking about creating a huge, large scene with a big environment or a lot of characters. And last week I mentioned creating groups because posing and moving a large scene in Daz Studio is very frustrating. You may have trouble trying to even do a simple thing like pose a camera. And so I showed you how you should group all of your props into categories so you can hide them. Now, this week, I want to show you how you can take those groups, create a subset, pose the subset, and then put it back into your large scene so that you can save some time and frustration when posing. So let's say that I want to move my native characters and put them in different poses. If I have them in the large scene, it's very frustrating because everything is so slow. Even with my good GPU, the environment and the textures, geometry are slowing Daz Studio down so much that it's almost impossible to even work. So like if I just want to take this character and rotate her in the scene that I have set up, this is real time here. I am just trying to rotate her towards the middle shaman, and it is just aggravating as hell. So everything is really slow and chunky. However, I do have these three characters in a group. And so what we can do is we can take this group, move it out of the large scene into a smaller scene by themselves, pose them how we want, and then just put them back into the large scene. To do this, I am going to create a subset. Now, once again, I've talked about subsets in a previous video, but it's always good to revisit things. So to create a subset, I'm going to make sure that my characters that I want to save are in a group. So I've grouped them. Then I'm going to go to File, Save As, and then I'm going to go to Scene Subset. I'm going to hit that, and then it's going to ask me what I want to save the subset as. So I'm just going to say native characters. And I have this saved in a folder called subsets, just so I know where it's at. So on your computer, you can create that. But I'm going to just save this. And then it's going to come up with a tab that asks me what I want to have in that subset. So I have to deselect everything except that group of native characters. So I have a lot of items in this scene. That's why it's so slow. I'm going to leave the native characters, and then when I hit accept, it saves that subset. Now, I'm going to save my large scene, always save on a regular basis. Now, once my main scene is saved, I'm going to go to File. You can see how slow this is. My computer's really working on this because the scene's so huge. And then I'm going to go to New, select the new scene. This just takes a minute to load the new scene. All right, now once I have a new scene loaded, I'm just going to go up to File and then go to Merge, hit Merge, and then I've just got to find that subset I created, native characters. I click on that, and it loads the native character subset into my new scene. Now, what's really cool is these native characters are in the position that they are in the original scene. So the new scene, I may have to move my camera to get to where I can see my characters. And I'm just going to spin it around here. And now I have my characters in their original position. So now I can more quickly select a character, and kind of like in a smaller scene, I can now pose her or move her a lot more efficiently. So in this case, I'm just going to change their poses and kind of reposition them just to give you an example here. So I'm going to go to my poses. Let's go to a standing pose. I use these poses a lot. And see, now I can repose them. And I'm working in DAZ Studio normally, like I would if I was creating a smaller scene. So even though these characters are going to be in this huge scene with the desert and all those props, I can now pose them without all that frustration. Now you may notice that posing these three characters, even in the subset, is pretty darn chunky. It's because of their darn hair. I don't know why the hair is an issue with this, but if I go onto my character and I delete the hair, I can then move around normally. Notice the hair is really affecting how DAZ Studio performs. You can see now I can just manipulate DAZ any way I want to. I can take my characters and move them without a lot of issues. I don't know why, because, hey, I am not an expert on creating props. Some of the hair does this and some of the hair doesn't. I think creators really need to pay attention to this because the hair that really affects DAZ Studio, they need to change. And I'd love to get some feedback on this because I find it extraordinarily frustrating because I had the hair set up the way that I want it for these characters. And in order to really use DAZ Studio, I've got to delete the hair. And then when I go back into my other scene, or when I get ready to render my big scene, I've got this issue where I have to reload the hair, find the right textures, find the right style, and it's a big hassle. So just some thoughts on that. Anyway, once I have my subset posed the way that I like, and I'm happy with that, I'm going to save it as a new subset. So I'm going to go to Save As, and then save it as another subset. And what I usually do, and you can notice like my Karstine character has all of these subsets, I just save that subset and override it. So I'm going to override this subset, and when I select that, it's going to give me a tab just like before as to what I want to save. In this case, I only have the native character group, and then it has this default camera. I can uncheck the default camera if I don't want it, hit accept, and then I have saved this subset. Now I can go back into my original large scene and open it up. I don't want to save this. I mean, you can save it as a scene, but I don't want to save this subset as a scene. So because I've saved it as a subset, I can just hit no, and it's not going to save it as a scene. So I don't have this extra scene. I just have a subset saved. If anyone knows a way around this hair issue, please let me know because it is so frustrating. You cannot hide the hair either because that does not fix the issue. You actually have to delete this hair. I've mentioned this in one of my challenge videos a while back, and I still have no solution to it. And I don't know which hair causes these problems. I don't know which hair doesn't. The more detailed the hair is, the more likely it's going to affect DAZ Studio. But I absolutely hate this. It's one of the things I dislike about DAZ Studio the most is when I cannot move around and navigate through the program. And a lot of times it's because of the hair along with these large scenes. So just keep that in mind. You may think you have a large scene and you're eating up a lot of memory because you can't move and navigate through DAZ Studio, but it might just be the damn hair. So keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm back to my original large scene, and now all I have to do is move that subset into the original scene. To make this easier, and so I can navigate, I'm going to hide my scenery because the scenery is eating up a ton of memory. But you can see now I have this original group of native women, and I'm going to take this and I'm just going to select the original group, and I'm going to right click and just delete them. Now I'm going to go into File, Merge, and I'm going to merge those subset characters into my main scene. Sorry for ranting about the hair. It's just so frustrating, especially when I'm doing commissions and I'm on a timeline. It shouldn't take me an hour to set up a scene and start rendering. And a lot of times it's just because of this hair issue. Okay, so you can see now that I've inserted the subset, the women are in their new poses, and I can now simply render the scene. So I posed the characters outside of my main scene and then just merged them in. You can tell that it's the subset because they are missing their hair. And so I'm going to have to go in and add the hair back, but using subsets is going to save you a lot of time in these big scenes. Okay, well, I hope this at least helps you, gives you some ideas on how you can create a large scene and have some ideas on how you can get this set up. Don't shy away from the large scenes just because they're frustrating to pose and change as you go. Now, if you're doing just single pictures, it's not that bad. But if you're doing comics or a series of pictures like I do, it becomes extremely frustrating. And I hope these last two videos sure help you out. Let me know in the comments if you have other tricks, because as I use DAZ more and more, I am being forced into creating more and more complex scenes, which I love because they're epic. And this scene actually looks really good rendered. It's just so frustrating to navigate through. With that in mind, just let me know if you've got other tricks for large scenes. But grouping things, last week's video, and then making subsets with those groups to pose and move around your characters, both are great tips for these large scenes. All right, that's going to do it. Milika's going to be back next week. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and give me comments, and happy rendering.